Hi, my name's Shahid Din. I'm the Group CEO of the Learning Initiative here in Dubai. Really passionate about helping people transform as they look to embrace and master the new operating systems. Very, very happy to be here on Voices of the Future.
Welcome to the Voices of the Future. We have Shahid Din with us. He's a dear friend. He is a co-conspirator in a lot of the things that we do together. We have worked together on many areas and projects, and I find Shahid as being an energetic, enthusiastic, effervescent, and fundamentally he is somebody who will bring about change and metamorphosis as we do in our world. Today he's at the Voices of the Future in our little studios, and he's going to talk to us about his life and his vision of the future. And I'd like to welcome Shahid. Welcome. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Tariq.
Happy to have you here, sir.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Shahid, welcome to the Voices of the Future. We'll have a little journey about your life, and your life has been an eclectic mix of a lot of wonderful things, and I'm sure we'll talk about them. But before we go there, can you just take us when you were a little Shahid, and tell us about what shaped you, what inspired you in the early days of your life?
Yeah, absolutely. Growing up in the suburbs of Surrey, very much in a 2.4 family, very much told to be compliant and follow the system. Unfortunately, within me, there was always this curiosity. And I was that child that was always asking why. And as I came from little Shahid to medium Shahid, I started challenging a little bit more. Something just wasn't making sense to me. Why do we have to do this way? And it was really only when I got to, and let me kind of backtrack on that. Being a straight A student, somebody that was very, very excited by mathematics, solving problems, somebody that was very excited by learning languages. I was really shaped, I think, by having fantastic teachers around me. And it was really only when, I guess, I had a teacher change on me without my choice, and I kind of feel students should have a choice on who their teacher is, that I started sort of dropping out from being this grade A student that was willing to perform, started challenging the system a little bit more. But I guess it was really when I got to college, and I still remember this very, very distinctly. I'd made it to 4 A-levels, pure and applied statistics, maths, A-level law, A-level accounting. And I remember this so vividly. I was sitting there in one of my maths exams, and it was the first year mock. So you can imagine I'm 16, going on 17. And I just sat there for 30 minutes. And I'd written my name down, and I just had to ask a question. I guess curiosity is what killed the cat. It's what killed me on that day. And I kind of put my hand up and called over my lecturer, and he said, "Shahid, what's wrong with you? You're in the middle of a mock exam. What do you need?" And I asked this really important question. I said, "Sir, what can I be when I'm older if I do this paper?" And you're not going to believe it, Tariq. Do you know what he said to me? He was puzzled, his face went blank, and he said to me, "You can be a maths teacher like me when you grow up." And at that moment, I just saw my whole life flash in front of me.
Yeah.
And I thought, for the last 4 months, we have bullied you on a daily basis, and that's just not the life I want. So I got up, and I remember very, very clearly, as I was leaving that room, his final words: "If you don't complete this paper, you're going to fail in life." And I guess that's really been what spurred me and driven me, because I've had to validate why I've not followed the conventional ways of working. And look, I think the last thing I kind of want to just put on that, and I was reading this 2 days ago, if you look at the US now, I think over 50% of employees now are removing bachelor's degree from job descriptions as of this year.
Well, we'll talk about why they might be removing those job descriptions. But when you were coming through, you are extremely successful today. and you haven't actually gone through a formal graduation process. Am I right to understand that?
Absolutely.
And you seem to be proud of it.
Hey, look, I think the experiences that I gained, and I'm comparing myself to a group of friends. Some of us went to universities, some of us went to colleges, some of us graduated from top city universities. I would say I was the first one that kind of didn't. So I had nobody there in front of me paving the way. So really had to figure things out. And I think that the things that I learned from people that have been there before
Sure.
have really served me well. And I think because I didn't know where I was going, I was happy to try different directions. And I guess that's what built the holistic skills that I bring to the table today.
Indeed, but you are in extremely good company. Steve Jobs never did. Mark Zuckerberg never did. Bill Gates never did. Now they're honorary doctorates, and I dare say at some stage you will become an honorary doctorate at some university because of your accomplishments in life. And I think that, to me, is what's designing the future, is what we accomplish and what we are able to assimilate. But before we go there, take us through your journey in terms of your first job. I remember how you went through that process.
Yeah.
And I think I have had similar experiences in my first job, my first role. I had to battle my way through just to get inside the door. How about you?
Yeah, look, I mean, the first job that I ever got was for a very small company. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but it was a company called KPMG.
Yes.
And at that time, I had no idea who they were, what they represented. I knew I had to learn. I took on a course. I went into Unix, Unix being an operating system of the time, replacing mainframes.
Sure.
And I think it was just being, just driven to get something. My CV was going out. The world was a little bit different then. We're talking 1996. We're still talking faxes. We're still talking CVs not going over fully, emails yet, communicating with a handful of recruitment agents. So I guess the first thing for me was, how do I build a relationship and how do I influence these people? The second part of that, which took almost 6 months, and I almost had made the decision to go back to college. I thought I'd made a mistake, but I get a phone call saying, Shahid, there's a job interview for you. It's with KPMG. It's in Watford. And I'm like, where's Watford? I'm living in Surrey. I'd have to go all the way to King's Cross and then get this overground train that I've not experienced. And I got there and they said to me, they took me in the server room and we looked at this huge mainframe. Back in them days, we didn't have what we got today. And he said to me, you see this light? I said, yeah. I was like, yep. If this light flashes, you need to phone us. And I'm like, wow, that's it. So really, I was the fancy monitoring that we've got in place today, that's all being automated. So I took the job on. 6 months later, I'm kind of like, this is not enough for me. And that's really where this constant thirst for learning, I think, really kicked off. That is, what else is out there? So I've got this. And I think I remember we had this conversation, Tariq. I told you at that time, at the age of, I think it was just short of 17, I was on £10 an hour. When I compare that to my family and what they were kind of earning at £6-7 an hour, that was a proud moment for me.
It's amazing. In Voices of the Future, there are 100 voices, and at least half of them literally started from exactly that. Really, it's ground up. And these people have sort of navigated their lives through all sorts of trials and tribulations, and I dare say you have too. Fast forward into your business career. How did that start taking shape? And then we'll get to your entrepreneurial environment now.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, so I ended up in technology, as I was saying. For me, I had to be the best. So I became the best within my domain. But something dawned on me really early in my career. And as I said, it was always that curiosity. It's about asking the questions that no one else is asking. So I'm in the server room working my backside off, 18, 19-hour days playing with technology. And I said to my boss at the time, boss, I got a question. He said, what's that, Shahid? It's going to be something stupid, isn't it? I said, how comes I work harder than him, but he earns more money than me? He said, well, because he's a project manager and he's more closer to the client. I said, so what you're saying is the closer you are to the client is where the real money. You got to remember, I'm a young guy. At this point, it's not even about fulfillment. It's about how can I earn good money and how can I live a life that I want to live. That really led me into project management. After a while, kind of got a little bit bored of project management, if I'm completely honest. It's not the most exciting at the early days. I thought, what shall I do? Recruitment looks cool. So I got myself a recruitment job in one of the biggest recruitment companies in Australia. That really started building my people skills, started building my soft skills. So I've got now this great technology background. I now know how to operate. I know how to deal with stakeholders. I'm in crisis. I'm now learning the influence and the persuasion part of it. And I guess at that point, I kind of went, hey, I want to go back to project management. So I've not had this conventional kind of journey. I've wanted to try things that give me different experiences. And I guess that's really about me. Without knowing it at the time, I was constantly stepping out of my comfort zone. I want to do something different. I want to learn. I want to grow. I think at the time, if I look back, I probably wasn't thinking that. It was always grass is greener. Let me try something different. And that really led me to where I ended up in Australia working for prestigious investment banks, running regulatory and critical compliance projects. And it was really there something changed. This is where I started experiencing that I can go to work, I'm nothing more than a number, there's got to be more to life than this. And as an individual, I'd started accelerating my learning at that time, and I just felt it's not knowledge that we need. Knowledge is available in abundance now. Whatever you're teaching me in a classroom, I can just go and get from Google now. So I thought, right, well, what can I do? Looked at the industry, and I kind of looked back at myself and self-proclaimed high performer. So there's a bell curve, there's a hypo. I felt I was a high performer, and I felt high performers don't want to come to classrooms and be taken through 200 PowerPoints. We want to have discussion, we want to have debate, we want to try something. We want the training to be a little bit more pragmatic. And I guess that's what took me into the entrepreneurial, or the start of entrepreneurship.
So there are two things. One is high performer, and the other is high potential, hypo and hyper. Were you hypo, or both?
I think I went through the journey and unknowingly went from being a high potential to becoming a high performer.
Precisely. I was going to say that actually precedes it, because you have your potential, you want to fulfill your potential, and therefore you perform at an extreme level to be able to get there.
And it's perform and it's do things that other people wouldn't do.
Yeah. You are very much an outlier in my experience with you. So if you think of a normal distribution curve, you are at the edge of that. And those are the people who actually bring about change, who bring about some elements of the future and shape the world. So let's look at the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey. What was your first entrepreneurial project, and how much did you invest in that? And that seed money, friends, families, and fools, they come in and help you out. If so, or you just do it yourself and bootstrap and move on. What was your experience?
It's actually a really exciting story. I think you're going to like this one. So I had come to Dubai on a holiday, and I was sitting on a balcony in Motor City, and I've written about this. This is on my LinkedIn. And I was in Dubizzle. As you do, you go to Dubizzle, you buy a business. And I was looking through some of the businesses, and I kind of looked at one, and it just kind of, I don't know, there's this intuition. I can't explain it.
Yep.
But I said, and I started Googling, because people try and hide the business name, and I found a name, and I said, if it's these guys, I will buy it. Lo and behold, it was these guys. So it was an organization called Specialized Management Group. They were project management experts. Obviously, I had extensive experience in project management, and they were literally just constantly on the verge of bankruptcy. So they had a great product, they had great clients, but they just couldn't influence and grow. And the business had got to a point where the previous owner wanted to exit. How did I do it? I've been quite smart. I've been quite savvy. So I've been investing in properties. I've always been one to think about the future, not just what's ahead of me tomorrow. So how did I fund it? I sold one of my houses, and you could call it, I put my life savings.
Sure.
For full transparency, what was that number? 700,000 dirhams and 500,000 dirham cash injection to kick this business off again. What was fantastic about it was in the first 3 months of me buying the business and getting involved, we had sold more products than what they would have done in a 6 to 7 month period over the previous 5 years. So that gave me the confidence that something's right here, give up the corporate job, move the family over from Australia, big risk. But we took it together. And I think having that support function around me, stable family, really did help.
Amazing story. Fast forward to today. You are the Group CEO of the Lending Initiative. What does that do, and how is it really impacting the world?
Yeah, so look, unfortunately, a lot of people see us as a training company. We just happen to do fantastic training. What we really are is an ecosystem of organizational design experts. The core focus for me, we hear the word transformation, and all we seem to be associating this to is digital and process and technology. For us, that's the easy bit. So what we're really focusing is on people transformation, and how do we really get people to understand where they are, reprogram their beliefs. Me and you, we've spoken about this many times. It's not about just learning new things. Unfortunately, in the space that we're in around leadership, where leaders have predominantly, bringing 20 plus years experience, it is really about unlearning. So as part of this people transformation consultancy, what we're actually doing is we're first diagnosing. After the diagnosis, we really got to understand, well, what is your internal belief before we start to undo it and retrain it. And then really it's about being automatic. So how do you shift the behavior? Well, that's going to have to be a very intentional effort on a daily basis. So it's about taking something small and maybe doing it for 60, 70, 80 days, really embedding it so it becomes an unconscious behavior. A little bit like, I don't know if you can remember, but no, actually, to take that joke out. But when we first went to school and we got upgraded from Velcros to shoelaces, if you were in the middle of doing your shoelace, you literally could not concentrate on anything. All your focus, all your consciousness had to be on the shoelace. Now, if you're wearing shoelace trainers, your shoelace comes out, you can just, do it up and carry on doing whatever you're doing at the same time. So it is really recognizing that we really need to get to these behaviors to be unconscious. They're not things you have to think about. And I think what we're seeing, the future is very different. You've said this before, the future's already here today. I agree, just unevenly dispersed. And it's getting faster and faster. It's changing faster and faster and faster. So I'm kind of looking at this concept of, again, the old age universal, the law of life. Either you're growing or you're dying.
Yeah.
So it's a choice you've got to make now.
That is indeed true. However, let me just go back into your choice of your role that you have taken on for yourself, and that is that literally getting people to unconsciously and subconsciously just transform from within their belief systems and so on. That's the most difficult thing to do. You can change behavior, you can change strategy, you can change all those kinds of things, but changing yourself from within and it becoming an integral part of who you are, that is very tough. I mean, these are boot camp activities. These are how the Navy SEALs operate, that they can respond and react. So what methodologies and tools are you using to get us match fit and match ready?
I think the first thing to recognize is nothing's going to happen, as you rightly said, over 1 or 2 days. It is a journey. I think it's about meeting people where they are. Some of the kind of principles that we've looked at, we've said, okay, how do we take learning and development principles? How do we take team building principles? How do we take gamification principles? And how do we embed coaching within? And what we've really seen is that if you keep telling people they have to change, they're not going to do it.
Yep.
We've got to really work on them. It's about that self-awareness. It's about that self-leadership. We focus too much all the time on, well, how do I lead my organization? How do I lead my team? How do I build a community of people within my organization? But we've forgotten one core aspect. As we entered this fourth industrial revolution, what we didn't recognize was that first leadership starts with self. So we got to do the work. And one of the things that we've been doing with a lot of leaders is actually going back in the past and looking at the timeline of how you've got to where you've got to, and then looking at what do these highs and lows look like? What do your behaviors look like in these different points? And what we actually found was most of us only grew through adversity.
That is true.
Why can't we replicate these things outside of adversity? So once we've done the past and we've kind of recognized who you are, we can then start scripting, what does the future look like? How do we go from some of these traditional ways of working? And I think that the challenge here is also not just the individual, but the success of organizations. It's very hard now to go in and break some of these immune systems, which we've spoken about many times.
Yes.
So whilst there's all the will and, that you want to do something different, it's becoming harder. And I think that's also leading to another trend that I'm seeing, a lot more entrepreneurship, a lot more people leaving the corporate world and doing something that they enjoy. And I think that, again, was accelerated by COVID.
Sure. There'll always be worker bees. I mean, yes, there'll be entrepreneurs and stars and so on, but there'll always be the worker bees who have to work on a day-to-day basis. Let me take you through a journey of a client. Let's assume I'm a client. I'm a bank. I'm a mid-sized bank. And you come to me and sort of say, I want to change the belief system, and say, please, that's the door. Why you don't have to go? Here's the compliance rules, here's the strategy, and this thing has come through our big fat consultants who come in and tell us what to do. So can you just train these people and motivate them and get them excited? Or can you show them project management or agile or something and bugger off? Is that, so take me as a client and give me your pitch and how you're going to sort of say, please do it differently.
I think firstly, we probably won't go in and say we're going to change your belief system, because that will get me thrown straight out. I think it's when you look at individual change, you need to have awareness and you need to have desire before you can get to knowledge. So some of the things that I'm talking about to my clients is about saying, hey, look, if we're in a VUCA world, a volatile world where there's so much change, there's uncertainty, there's complexity, we know interconnected systems and the way the world is working has made things a lot more complex than they were. And the ambiguity, I mean, there could be multiple directions. If that's what we're looking to address, then what does good look like for you as you look forward? And typically we're seeing it's the same problems, just a different context, whether you're talking banking, whether you're talking telco. And I'm hearing the same things. Look, we need to be able to collaborate. We need to be able to experiment. We need to become more adaptable. So for me, we've created a reframing future leadership workshop, which is actually an experience. It's a simulated experience where I'm not here to tell you that you've got to do something different. I'm going to put you through an experience and get you to recognize and create the awareness yourself, because that's the first step in this change, right?
Yeah.
Once you have the awareness that, hey, I am applying old school paradigms of management to a problem that requires new thinking,
Yeah.
new behavior, requires a lot more communication, requires me to be an adaptive leader, then naturally the desire kicks in. So you're more receptive to
Indeed.
receiving the knowledge.
One of the challenges I encounter is short-term, long-term. Short-term people need instant gratification. They need the injection. They need to make things happen. Versus a lot of what you're talking about is long-term benefits, is a fundamental shift in the game. We're in a transient part of the world and jobs are changing and so on. How do we motivate management, leadership, into sort of saying we need to invest in people, and even if they move on, that's the people that are left behind are the ones that we would like to retain in terms of delivery. Because one of the key things, I'm training people and they're just leaving 6 months, 12 months later because they are now more capable and can get a better job. So how do we square that circle? How do we pull it together? Because I have the short-term, long-term conversations with most leaders that I'm coming up with.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. The first thing, and we've heard this before, right? If you don't train them and they stay, you're in trouble anyway, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we've got to recognize, and what I'm talking to a lot of my clients about, is we know this, but the only competitive advantage is your people. It is not finance. Look, I can go to a VC, I can get funding today. It is not strategy. There are plenty of consulting experts out there that I can pick on and pull out for strategy. It is not technology. Technology is $2 a server now, right? We can all go and get these three elements. What we can't get, and what is the competitive advantage for any organization, is their people. So one element is training. But the other element that I think that needs to really go alongside this is create the environment, and it's an environment of caring. Look, we're asking people to innovate. We're asking people to go on these training courses and learn new things. But if I'm not in an environment, this really leads me back to why I left the corporate world. I used to work for one of the banks, I won't mention who they are, and one day I said to myself, I'm not going to say hello to my boss. I'm going to wait for her to say hello to me. Then we literally sat 3 desks away. You know, it got to day 30 and she still didn't say hello to me in the morning. Is that the kind of environment that I want to work in? An environment where, you know, I was in another country, I've got young children, I'm having to hide my bag in the kitchen at 4:30 in the afternoon so I can leave at 4:50 so I can actually catch the bus. Regardless of me arriving at work 7 a.m. and doing all the meetings in US till 11 o'clock at night. So I think one of the things leaders really need to work on is, what does an environment of caring look like? What does transparency look like? What does emphatic leadership look like? What is a psychologically safe environment? An environment where, if I'm working with you, Tariq, regardless of your title, there's an element of trust which allows me to have some conflict with you.
Sure.
And the kind of conflict I'm talking about is healthy.
Yeah.
It's got to be debate. It's not about he who shouts loudest and we all run that direction, and when it goes wrong, it's your fault.
Yeah.
So I think with the training, start looking at how do you reframe the environment for success. And if that's there, people are going to naturally do bigger, more important things. If not only I'm getting paid well, and I don't mean over the odds, but you've got to level up on salaries, and I'm in an environment where I'm doing things which are purposeful, why would I leave?
Indeed. You are an expert in agile and safe and all of the good things that are built around that. Quick explanation of what agile is, what safe is, and how people see it.
Yeah.
And how do you see it, which I know it's entirely different.
Yeah, look, I think this is the battle. I think right now Agile's got a bit of a bad name. Agile is a technology thing. It is used to deliver technology projects. I think for me, it's something very different. It's a mindset. Look, I'm the handyman, and when I turn up to work on a problem in your house, I would much rather have all of the tools there available for me to select from. And I think what people get into the old debate is which one is better. Agile's not a silver bullet. It is being used when we are in adaptive situations, meaning we don't know what we need to fully get done. We need to work very, very closely with the customer. The customer's requirements are changing. The environment is changing. It's about saying, how can we do rather than it cannot be done. So it's about shifting your mindset. It's about really saying, how do I take my mind from a comfort zone of exactly where I am to not end up in a panic zone, and I've seen too many people end up there, but more into a learning zone. We're willing to experiment. So I guess the added advantage of agility for me, and irrelevant of the framework, right? Whether it's safe, whether it's less, I'm not an evangelist on that. But it's about, what are we trying to do, and how do iterations help us? How does breaking the problem down? Do we know all the information? Well, if we don't, how can we make all the decisions at the beginning? Yep. We call it the project paradox, the cone of uncertainty. So I'd almost put it as very much, it's a mindset, and it's giving you more tools to use at the right time. And I think that's the key. If you've got a range of tools, you can pull the right tool out to deal with that problem. And I think the rise of uncertainty, what we're seeing, look, we've got every organization's now a technology company. So we're delivering technology projects on things we don't understand. AI is a prime example. How can you plan that project? Well, there's an element of planning. How do we collaborate? And I think what Agile also forces is something that's really missing, which is conversation. Right? Breaking down some of these silos. We're forced into collaboration with Agile.
We are voices of the future. Let's talk about the future. How do you see the future? Are you optimistic?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an extremely exciting time. I think what the future is doing and what we're seeing is it's leveling everything out again, which creates new opportunities. So I may have had a really, can I say the word shitty, but I could have had a shitty 10 years.
Yeah.
But I now have an opportunity. But it comes down to, what am I willing to do?
Yeah. As a father of young children, what are the kinds of messages are you delivering to them to shape their thinking and their opportunities for the future?
Yeah, look, I think a bit more consciously asking why, right? Why do we do? Look at all angles. For me, it's about building relationships. So I'm saying to them, build relationships. I'm asking them to get experiences. I think experiences serve well. You can't learn much from a book these days, right? It's all about doing it. I'm encouraging them to try things, to fail, but then I'm encouraging them to tell me what they've learned from that. And I think the word failure needs to be reorganized. I know some people are calling it learning now, but no, failure is failure.
Yeah,
that's
you
one
have to
element.
demystify it and
and gotta be able to fail in order to learn. So, you know, the view for me is try.
Yeah, you're a good father, because my parents, I've only failed generally at an early stage of my life once, and it was a big time failure when I failed my accountancy exam. And I just fell apart because I had never failed at anything. I was only trained to excel. I was trained to win. I was trained to get an A. I was never trained to fail. And I told my parents once that you've given me love, you've given me a very, very safe psychological environment, but you never showed me how to fail, and it's okay. Because I never thought it was okay to fail. Anything from A to B was like, I am embarrassed and I cannot go home now.
Yeah.
So I think demystifying failure and relearning what failure is all about is one of the things of the future. It's interesting you speak about them learning through experiences, because one of the phrases that I always use is that with technology and with digitization in the world, anything that can be digitized will be 1,000,000 times faster and 1,000,000 times cheaper. But anything and everything that cannot be, love, harmony, spirit, heart, soul, judgment, ethics, culture, all of these things are within us, are the more human skills. How in your work, and let's say in your family, are you training us for these softer skills? I wouldn't even say soft. I think they're really hard skills. We call them soft, but they're not. They're actually very hard.
Yeah.
And these skills that we've always had, the attributes that we've had, And how will that shape the world of the future as you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think it was Simon Sinek that said that they're not soft skills, they're life skills.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing is to recognize that AI is not here to replace us. We still need to control the AI. Sure. It's the augmentation. It's how do we leverage AI? And you're absolutely right. The life skills, as we now call them, cannot be learned by the machines. We're still going to need to think about what are the biases that are going into some of the algorithms. I think there is an opportunity here for the sort of younger generation as they're coming through to recognize that now is the time to develop these skills. I think the schooling system should be doing a little bit more on this rather than English, maths, and history and geography. But yeah, look, they're going to play an absolutely crucial part. Look, we talk about trust. There's got to be trust between machine and man. There's got to be trust between man and man.
Sure.
The ethics, we are the ones programming the ethics. So if we start doing things incorrectly, they're going to go wrong. Absolutely critical skills for the future.
We are at the Voices of the Future with Shahid Din, the Group CEO of the Learning Initiative. And we're having a wonderful conversation and taking how the world is taking shape into the future, how organizations need to shift, how our mindsets need to change, how organizations need to relook and rethink in terms, and unlearn is another beautiful word that he used that we need to really engage with as we look into the future. So Shahid, as we do finally look into the future and you were to leave a little message in a bottle, let's say to be picked up in 10 years' time, your daughters, what would they read in that little message? And how would we see Shahid projecting as an amazing voice that you are into the future?
Yeah, look, I think we all know hindsight is a wonderful thing. So my message in a bottle is take the shot. The only thing you're going to regret later in life is the shots you didn't take.
Yeah. That's a really wonderful one. Take the shot, absolutely, because a lot of us go through life with regrets. And I dare say there have been times when I've gone through that process, but at a most open and vulnerable level, I feel that I am taking all the shots right now against the grain, against corporate sanity. I could get myself a really nice job, but I'm doing other things and I'm struggling my way through, but I'm literally living every single thing, and I'm going through that process. Another one which both you and I have done in your conversation several times, and that is, I feel that change is too slow. Transformation is faster. Reinvention is even faster, which is absolutely the minimum for the future. And the last one is metamorphosis. In other words, change ourselves completely to become from a caterpillar to butterfly. In these 3-4 steps to really becoming that beautiful butterfly into the future, let me just focus on reinvention. Have you reinvented yourself again and again in your life? Because I have at least 3 or 4 times. And it's scary as hell. Tell us a story that you may have gone through in terms of how you literally came back and did something fresh.
Yeah, look, multiple reinventions. And again, I'll say every shot I've taken, not everything's worked. There's been failure. I don't regret a single thing. But, there are times when, and I still remember this very clearly, we'd come to Dubai to move him, freshly married, young wife. I was a young husband. Came to live the life, and I remember I was buying a Mercedes SL, the smaller one, 2-seater, and at that point my wife tapped me and said, I think you better get off the phone. I said, why? I'm pregnant. So we came to enjoy our life. We ended up with
you needed to buy a Volvo then.
Yeah, well, so we ended up with Maya at that time, and 15 months later we had Sophia. And I still remember this. So it's part of my career now was all about sales, and I was doing technology sales. And I remember this very clearly, banging my head on a brick wall. And, two young kids, and my boss came to me. I went into work, and he said, "Shah, I've got some bad news. We're going to have to let you go." And this is sometime just after the crisis. So, we're talking 2009. Things, as we know, weren't looking too great, and being a salesman at that time was probably not ideal. And really, yeah, I think the key thing that happens is I let my breakdown happen, and I'm being very vulnerable here. I let the emotions come through. I let myself feel the emotions, which is what I'm doing. I'm recreating that real adversity. There's no adversity at this point, right? I've just lost a job. It's not a problem. But I'm recreating that so I can create the behaviors to reinvent. And at that point, I'd realized that IT service management was coming about as a framework. There was not so many people out there with the skill set. I spent the next 30 days learning about IT service management and got myself a brand new job. And I've been through this experience many times. I went from technology to project management to sales to HR to sales to where I am today.
Shahid, to end this beautiful conversation, I would love to express my gratitude to you in terms of us working together, because there are times when I'm out there and flaky and you bring me down, but there are times
likewise.
and there are times when you are too hard focused and I open you up. And the yin yang that we have and the ability for us to operate together is truly interesting and relevant for a lot of people out there. And I'd love to have that partnership and that engagement and the mix of opportunities and skills that we bring together. You have the great ability to see around corners and then apply practical things to that. I have a great ability to see beyond the mountain. And I'm sort of building wings in the process, if you see what I mean. But coming together and working together in a harmonious and synchronistic, synergistic way is the way forward. And I dare say when we look at the future, that kind of harmony, connectivity, working together is really going to be part of our future. Our collaboration, our adaptability and stuff is really part of it.
Absolutely. Look, I'm a big fan of ecosystems. I think it's something that we're not doing enough. We're all trying to do it ourselves. And like we said, the world is a complex place. So if we can bring diverse perspectives, and this is what it's about bringing these diverse perspectives into a room to create something new. So I'm looking forward to 2024 and working with you this year.
Sounds good. And you are going to be an integral part of Voices of the Future, and we're going to have this beautiful book. He's going to be part of that, and we are going to do amazing things together. Shahid, real pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.